certainly live in a world now where TV is anything that pops up
That's what people do.
on your big screen. I think that we have seen the world where brands have gotten too addressable at times, and then they've become so siloed in who they're targeting that they've forgot about growing the brand and growing the business. The targeting's not always perfect. It picks up on one web search that you did on behalf of somebody else, or
it's perceived as being as good as it gets, but it's not perfect.
I do think the fragmentation, whether you want to call it walled gardens, whether you just want to say there's a million data sets, a million data providers, it gets really hard to define who your audience is. I am in the camp that YouTube is becoming more and more like TV every day, and I wasn't paid to say that. Millions of people are cutting the cord and moving to CTV only or to streaming services only. We can't then go to those services, put on all the data layers and say, I've lost all my reach. And I thought you said everybody watches CTV. And that is why I do think that data and technology and using AI and those tools to help us solve it will be important, with the touch of humanity in the center.
This week on Next in Media, as part of my new special series with the folks at Go Addressable, I talk with Mike Law, CEO of Carat North America. Mike and I talked about the challenges in scaling targeted advertising on TV and whether the ad tech in place is up for the task. Mike also discussed how media investment teams are viewing creator media versus TV spending and what needs to happen on the measurement front to make things more compatible. Lots to get into, so let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Next in Media. I'm Mike Shields. My guest this week is Mike Law. He is the CEO of Carat North America. Hey, Mike. Thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Mike, good to see you.
So many things I want to talk to you about. Let's start with CTV because I saw you at CES. It's kind of top of mind. You're an expert on this. I'll ask you an easy, open-ended one to start because there's so many pieces here. But where do you think we are in the TV world in terms of targeting? Is it? Yeah, I think we envisioned one thing with CTV, and no one said it was going to happen overnight. But where do you think we are right now?
Yeah. Well, I love that you kind of said TV and then said CTV and interchanged the two, because I think that that's right. I think we have to, first off, we certainly live in a world now where TV is anything that pops up.
That's what people do.
On your big screen. Yeah. I always used to say, you might remember, like, let's buy TV like we watch TV, right? Like, just simplify it. I think when it comes to targeting and that piece, like, kind of like we've been talking about AI to a degree, like that's not really the story, right? Like, targeting is no longer it shouldn't be the headline. It should just be part of the baseline of how we think about buying TV and where the power of video is holistically.
Right.
I think that if we're, debating whether TV is data driven, I mean, it's always been data driven. It's just the data's gotten better and more precise.
Right. We had demos. We had some. There's always something.
Exactly. So I think it's really about how do you spend that next best dollar? How do you grow brands? I think that we have seen the world where brands have gotten too addressable at times, and then they've become so siloed in who they're targeting that they've forgot about growing the brand and growing the business. And I certainly think as we get into more data-driven buying, as we get into more potential agentic buying, algorithms driving decisioning, if you don't kind of break out of that, everybody will end up in the same place. It will push everybody to the middle. So every category will have the same insights and start chasing the same consumers.
Right.
So then all of a sudden the branding does become important. The product becomes important. Where you differentiate yourself becomes important. So yeah, addressable, important, targeting, important, but it's really about kind of how you balance the two to drive growth.
Right, because you don't want television to become where at one point the web was 100% retargeting, chased around the same customers, and you weren't generating demand or taking advantage of the medium's strengths. So you said a lot of things that are interesting, because we talked about. I want to ask you about being too addressable, but how do you? This sounds like a crazy question because I hear more and more. There's so much more activity in addressable television. That used to mean one thing very specifically. What do you mean when you say that, and where is that going right now?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in the eye of the beholder or the eye of the deck writer, you could make any claim you wanted about what percent of TV is addressable from 0 to 100, and there's a case for both sides. I think that for the most part, brands have found a good balance based on their business. I still think the tendency is when business is not going well, that let's go to targeting. Let's go get the repeat customer. Let's find our audience. Let's try to look alike model.
Performance, whatever it cuts us closest, we gotta
Correct.
zero in.
Because I need to drive short-term business growth.
Right.
But then the cycle just begins of, okay, we've squeezed as much out of those customers as we can. The lookalikes, we've gotten as much of that as we can. We need to go find new audiences. So we have a lot of clients now who are, faced with different and new challenges around audiences that they've historically found to be their best customers. So whether it's they're aging out of the population, whether there's lots of reasons why the audience that got you there may not be the one that
they're seeing macro consumer shifts that
correct.
are not reflected in their media planning necessarily.
And what we've really, really focused on, and I don't think we're alone in this, but this is where the deep understanding of audience knowledge, the ability to use your data to say, hey, these are the micro audiences that you can grow with, helps brands find new customers. And I think that's really important in this story. So yeah, it's hard to pinpoint what percent is addressable. We could all make up our own data on that. And it's such a broad definition today. I think it's about balance for growth.
I keep asking you about how to get more targeted. You're telling me that brands maybe go too crazy. But when it comes to trying to get more targeted, like what's in your way? Is it just the fragmentation? Is there a reliable identifier that will help let you do what you want? Like what's challenging?
I think there's a few things. Yeah, I mean, certainly the fragmentation. One of the things, and I texted her right after she talked about it at the IAB, Allison Levin, talking about the need for the industry to be moving forward together, right?
Yeah.
And I do think the fragmentation, whether you want to call it walled gardens, whether you just want to say there's a million data sets, a million data providers, it gets really hard to define who your audience is. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other is it's not a perfect science. I think I have an example of a coworker who talks about her daughter watching something on Disney Channel and getting an ad for, I'll probably get in trouble for this, for the Trade Desk, right?
Yeah,
and it's
that's funny.
Yeah, they were targeting my coworker.
Right. There's a really specific audience for that one.
She pays the bill, right? So therefore, by default, it seems like, oh, that's who's in the house and that's the targeting. And that's, like a one-off.
Extremely, but it's illustrative.
But yes, exactly. And we've all experienced that. And I've gotten Trade Desk ads too. So it does work, Jeff. It's fine.
Right. I've gotten Vibe ads. So it's funny. I've gotten a lot of B2B CTV ads recently, which is funny.
Yeah. So I think that those are the kind of the ends of the spectrum that, these are some of the challenges in that space. So you can't, it's a really hard in whether it's TV, CTV, any channels. I mean, we even see it in the social channels, right? The targeting's not always perfect. It picks up on one web search that you did on behalf of somebody else, or
it's perceived as being as good as it gets, but it's not perfect.
Correct.
What about, to get a little bit wonky here, but like this was a big research topic in CES in the last couple of years, this idea that if you're relying on IP addresses in TV, you're maybe kidding yourself. It's not, you can't be that targeting. Targeting doesn't work as well as you think it does. Maybe we should think about households. And that's a broad topic, but what do you make of that thinking? And have you experienced that challenge?
Yeah, again, I think that this gets into the bigger question of just how targeted do you want to be, and is it about one-to-one targetability,
right?
Especially
is that what television's for?
Yeah, especially in I think the medium that we're mostly talking about, which is TV and CTV.
Right.
I still think that this is the channel that has the greatest ability to drive reach and to create these really community driven moments as TV becomes more fragmented. There's certainly an argument that it's a performance channel, but what people talk about is how it brings people together. So we talk a lot about live sports, the community of live sports. So there's plenty of technical challenges to dig into. But I do think that sometimes we try to over technical TV and video when we should be thinking about the reach extension that we're trying to drive.
Yeah.
And if we really if we believe that millions of people are cutting the cord and moving to CTV only or to streaming services only, we can't then go to those services, put on all the data layers and say, well, I've lost all my reach. And I thought you said everybody watches CTV.
Right.
We'll cut our head off to
Yeah.
tail. So, I think that we have to, again, what's the KPI that we're trying to drive? And then what are the tools that we can use to get there?
Shifting gears a little bit, you mentioned, like we talked about at the start, what people think about it, TV is what they're putting on TV you watch. YouTube has come a long way, I think, in getting to be legitimate. I mean, obviously the numbers they have on CTV or just television in general are impressive, and they're everything is trending in the right direction, but it still seems like they are struggling among some brands to get in that consideration set for television. Where do you see them right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll equate it back, and I'll age myself a little bit, but back in the day when cable was growing, the New York market didn't have FX. And I remember they would come in and try to sell The Shield and all those shows. And TV buyers were hesitant because they didn't live and experience it. That's not what they were watching.
It's not real to them, yeah.
Right. Then it showed up in New York and everyone's like, this is the greatest channel of all time. I can't wait to buy these shows. So I think that YouTube faces some of that same inertia, which is a lot of people who are responsible for buying television didn't grow up watching YouTube on their TV. Right. But I will say, as a parent watching my kids, they watch YouTube on TV hours. And they don't watch 5-minute clips. They watch 30-minute episodes that are updated twice a week, 3 times a week. So the content cycle is endless and the quality is getting better. Now, is it an exact TV experience? Can we expect the same thing? And this is where I think it would reflect back on our conversation before of, well, are you going to use YouTube for their hyper targeting capability? Are you going to do it to build reach? And I think that is dependent on the audience that you're looking for.
Right.
And honestly, a little bit of where the budget's coming from. Is this a performance budget? Is it a brand budget? You have to go back to the KPIs. So you could be buying YouTube for multiple different reasons. I am in the camp that YouTube is becoming more and more like TV every day. And I wasn't paid to say that. And I'm sure they're going to play that back to me in some meeting at some point.
You'll be on stage, like, whether you like it or not. Yes.
I'm not, I'm getting there.
Yeah. That's in the upfront clip.
That'll be in a quote somewhere. I can feel it already.
But you make a good point though. And it's a challenge and an opportunity for YouTube because they can tell that TV replacement story, but they also can play in the social video performance world, and they would like to compete with TikTok on shopping and all those things. They have to kind of be a lot of things, which is not that easy.
Yeah.
For someone like you to put, I guess it depends on whose budget we're talking about.
Yeah. And this is where I'll make a bit of the argument for, our investment and activation teams today, our planners. Like, it is a really complicated media ecosystem for consumers and for advertisers. I've heard it kind of talked about as this bowl of spaghetti. Like the user cycle is all over the place. You go from searching to watching a video to listening to a song in less than a minute's time. And, you watch one show on one streaming platform, and then you're searching for it in another platform, and then you're asking an LLM to dive deep into the history of the world and comparing notes. So it is really that I think is where some of the challenge comes. And then people go back to the basics and try to simplify it. And maybe we don't pull and extract enough of the amazing opportunity that technology and data does provide. So it's hard to figure out. We're in the middle of this kind of evolution of this business. And that is why I do think that data and technology and using AI and those tools to help us solve it will be important, with the touch of humanity in the center.
Speaking of complicated and humanity, you hinted at how big some of the creators are, and they are doing episodic, longer form content on a regular basis.
Yeah.
This may vary by client, but what do you do with them? Because are they in your TV upfront bucket conversations and looking at them as like the same thing as buying a big show on CBS? Are they so unique because it's all about brand integrations and the connection with the audience? Does it really depend? Like, what do you do with them?
Yeah, I would say I don't know why they wouldn't be. Now, the question is creator versus content. Because I think the creators you don't necessarily have to sign up to a creator as a brand and say, I want you to do an individual promo for my product. You can
Right.
still take advantage of the fact that that creator is making long form content that is being, coming out with speed, with freshness, and can help you drive reach to a particular audience. So I think it's a little bit of content plus creator, content and creator, content or creator. I think you can bucket those into different things because the creator universe, right, is about authenticity and the ability to connect with audiences and to use their voice to do that.
You don't want to under leverage that just to get
Correct.
impressions.
But that doesn't mean that just because you're not using a creator to directly promote your product, that the content that they're creating isn't scalable,
Yeah.
impactful, and all those things to different audiences.
Right. Yeah. I guess it depends if you're trying to buy their audience or buy their affiliation. It
Correct.
depends on the tactic.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, back to the conversation we're having about the role of investment and activation and planning is so easily that becomes, well, that's not my job, right? Oh,
Mhm.
that's social. That's
Totally.
creator. That's that person over there. Well, no, if you have a creator who's making, 20-minute episodic content launching 3 times a week to 10 million viewers, I mean, that's incredible. Let's take
Yeah.
advantage of that. So we have to be, much broader in our definitions of what TV and video are today.
Does it make your life easier? You're starting to see these I've heard them referred to as like boutique studios or like creator studios that are becoming more than just like one or two guys making videos and they're rolling up bigger ones. Does that make your life easier? Are they like players in the upfront conversations?
I think that there's the potential for it. Again, I think the fragmentation makes it harder to then bring all those audiences
Right.
together. So how do you accumulate the reach? One thing we have seen, I don't know if this is exactly where you're going with that question, but the formats of this content, like the micro dramas where you're seeing, what's ultimately a 90-minute movie, but you're seeing it released in 3 to 4 minute content in vertical
Yeah.
formats, that's a completely different format we've never dealt with before. So yeah, I think that they have the potential to. I think where you'll see brands get more involved in that is through the content integrations, because it's a great opportunity for brands to get into storylines and kind of help develop the content. But are they true reach players? Potentially.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see all this being really hard to plug into your marketing mix models and things like that. Like they don't
Yeah.
seem like this kind of stuff just translates very well.
Well, and I think that you talk about marketing mix models, but even just in the front ends, I mean, we've talked a lot this year. I've written about a couple times, the role of the media planner and the reemergence of the media planner to help brands navigate this. Because you just in the 20 minutes we've been chatting, you've asked some great questions about how do you think about this format and that format, but it goes to the endless amount of formats that is out there. So then you have to go back to what are the basics of, am I looking to reach more people? Am I looking to get more out of my current customer? So you have to go back to those KPIs. And then I don't envy media sellers who all come in with great products and great stories and can
Yeah.
do great things, but there's a limit to the amount of dollars we can spend. We have to be as effective and efficient as we can with that and our time, and try to find where the most impactful places are. So yeah, there's no lack of content or supply in the market, but how you aggregate it and make it consistently work towards what you're trying to do. I think that's the challenge we all face.
You kind of hit on one of the interesting discussion topics in the industry right now is the role of we talk about how nuanced and complicated this job can be. Yet there's a lot of talk that people won't be doing it anymore in a few years. The machines will be so good at figuring out where to optimize media budgets that the media planner we know won't exist. That feels very contradictory, or that
Mm,
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be a doomsdayer about AI, but I also don't want to be naive.
no.
Where do you see that going? Are we gonna have media planners in 5 years?
Yes. Well,
All right,
practically
good.
yes. The role as we know it won't be the same, but there will be media planners who are enabled and empowered by better technology, better data, no different than my career journey. And it will allow them to think differently, and hopefully optimize quicker. But I mean, sorry to give a little Kara story here, but we've really dubbed this year the human renaissance, because everybody's so quick to say that AI and automation is going to rule the world. You drop a penny in, it will tell you where to spend it, it'll optimize
Right.
it, and we don't need people.
Go home.
I,
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, right? I think that the power of humanity to be seeing and feeling what's happening in real time, to put in the right inputs into these systems. And as we talked about before, that the algorithms will drive everybody kind of towards the same human experience. And if you put in, I think, 5 QSR brands into the same system, it's eventually going to kind of push everybody to the same types of people or the same audiences.
Right. And what
And
is your
once
brand
they
at that
get
point? Right.
there,
Yeah.
how do you differentiate? You differentiate with your messaging, differentiate with the content. And I think you have to differentiate by showing up in places that maybe that competition isn't. And that's where you
Right.
need the strategy.
That's strategy.
Plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Right. You don't want to lose that. What about on all that being said, I'm curious, like if you were talking maybe to your junior team, like what is their life like versus 2 years ago? Is it people imagine it being radically different? All they do is spend their time in ChatGPT, or it's everyone's testing, they're not sure. Like what is it? What does day to day life look like in a meetings
Yeah.
agency versus a couple years ago?
I think it's changing rapidly. And I think, the teams are being empowered with new tools and new technology to do their job. The idea of we can get a request from a client to see, 8 or 10 versions of the same media plan. Well, we don't necessarily need to go into our tools and hand input 8 to 10 different
Right.
variables.
Do the
We
flow
can
chart for
say,
everyone and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've put in the variables of the audience, the KPIs, and then say, give us 8 different versions of this. And we've got agents that allow us to look at those very quickly and compare the trade-offs and comparisons, and then craft the story around that. So yeah, I think that their roles are changing. And, I also believe that, you know, the good news for our industry is that we have smarter people coming into the industry than ever before. They're more strategic, they're AI native, they're digital native. So they're going to rewrite what this industry looks like. And I think
Yeah.
that this generation will kind of be writing what the next 20 or 25 years looks like. So kudos to them, because
Don't discourage kids from going into this industry. Like it's not like
correct. And one other thing that I always love to say is, like, I felt like there was a moment in our industry where you would live your life and then as soon as you walked into the door, all of a sudden the systems and tools became your truth. And you didn't take a minute to say, well, wait, that's not how I consumed that.
right,
That's not my
right.
brand experience. So I think that on your question of will a planner exist? Yes, because the tools that's what they would say is just everybody, the data says this. You need the human to say, okay, but is that the lived experience? Is that
Right.
how a brand shows up in the best way? So you'll see strategy and planning and audience and insight, those teams coming much closer together, as the kind of architects of future media plans.
Okay, you mentioned agentic. We got to go there, I guess. This is another one where I feel like there's extreme opinions. Either it's all of advertising is going to be all of what we knew as programmatic will be agentic.
Mm,
Everyone will use agents all day long. Versus there's a hesitancy to go too fast, too far for brands. Where are you guys, and where do you think things are going in terms of like execution?
yeah. I think that we're at a place where the tools and technology will allow us to move very quickly into that space. I think that it will allow us to be more efficient as an agency, and it will allow us to move strategy and planning up to the front. So I believe in it greatly.
Okay.
And I think that when you look at the companies that are building it now, look, I've been lucky enough, you have too, right? We lived through kind of the birth of programmatic. I think that this is, a moment that we need to make sure that we've got the right regulations in place, that
Yeah.
we've got the right controls in place, so that we don't get into another place where there's, a laundry list of ad taxes attached to every dollar spent, and we've spent more money
Right.
on placing the dollar than we did on the impact of the dollar.
Yeah.
So I think that those things are what we really need to, as an industry, make sure that we're focused on creating those guardrails.
Is anybody out are you how do I phrase this question? Like, I think there's been the thinking that brands don't want to let agents go all the way. Like, are agents going to go out and buy media and optimize on their own if they aren't already?
Um, I think that they could. I think that absolutely could.
Should they or will they? I guess is the question.
Correct. I think they could. Should they or will they is the question. Again, we don't know the future. We don't know the tip of the iceberg on what this
No.
actually do. My belief as I sit here today, that in the relative short and midterm, that would not be the best way to do it without some human oversight.
Right.
Can it allow us to look at optionality? Can it help us with optimizations? Yes, but I think that it could go rogue, and maybe less rogue. I think more, it's just going to create a sea of sameness.
Yeah, which is not what we were selling here.
Correct. With the human experience is not about sameness, so
Right.
you have to find the balance between the two. So yeah, I suspect you'll see some company probably already out there saying, yeah, we're fully agentic.
Right.
Going back to another topic we talked about, like the industry's not set up for that because not all the tools talk to each other.
Yeah, you couldn't do that if you wanted to right now. It's all
You might be able to do it in one platform, but then the other
Right.
platform talks in a different way. So
Right.
back to what I was saying about Allison, like we do need to kind of move this industry forward together and create some of those guardrails. And I think that'll be an important discussion in the next, year or so as we move forward.
Last one, Mike, is this is a two-parter, I guess. What's got you really excited right now that we haven't talked about, and maybe what's driving you nuts that we need to talk about more?
Well, that's a good question. You didn't tell me you were going to ask that either.
No, I didn't.
I think what has me excited is I actually think that all of this talk around AI, agentic automation has highlighted two things. One, the importance of the humans in our industry and the value of
I like it.
creativity and the value of content and the value of brands, because those are the things that are helping people to stick out. The second thing would be that it is, I think people are cautious because we've seen this before. And the idea that we need to come together as an industry to solve this is really highlighted in this moment.
Yeah, we're smarter this time. We've learned lessons and we're trying to do it better this time.
Correct. Yep.
All right. I like that. That's a very positive note to end on. Mike, awesome conversation. Thanks so much. Let's do this again sometime.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Carat's Mike Law and my partners at Go Addressable. If you like this week's episode, please take a moment to rate and leave a review. We have lots more to bring you, so please hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time for more on What's Next in Media. Thanks for listening. Go Addressable unites the full TV advertising ecosystem. Agencies, advertisers, programmers, distributors, ad tech platforms, and data partners to help unlock the full power of deterministic audience-based advertising at scale. As a trade organization led by TV distributors and strengthened by cross-industry collaborators, they're committed to accelerating the growth and impact of targeted advertising by advancing the use of high-fidelity deterministic identity in a way that's trusted, scalable, and turnkey. To learn more, visit goaddressable.com, GOADDRESSABLE.com.